The year was 1462, a time when fear moved across the Balkans like a living shadow. The rising Ottoman Empire pressed deeper into Europe, while one man, ruler of the small principality of Wallachia, refused to bow. His name was Vlad III, known to his enemies by a name whispered with dread, the Impaler. But among all the tales of his cruelty, one story spread so far and with such terror that even hardened Ottoman generals struggled to believe it. The tale of what Vlad did to Ottoman women who crossed into his land. This is that story. The Ottoman caravan moved slowly across the mountain road, carrying supplies, fabrics, and several young women who had been taken from border villages claimed by the empire. To the Ottomans, these were not prisoners. This was simply the tax of expansion. The women were destined for various noble houses, palaces, or servitude within the empire's sprawling territories. But the caravan never reached its destination. As dawn broke, the riders heard a sound like rustling leaves, but it was no wind. It was movement. Within seconds, arrows rained down from the cliffs. Horses screamed, men fell, and the road turned into chaos. A small band of Wallachian soldiers led by Vlad's most loyal captain descended like phantoms. The Ottomans fought fiercely, but they were outnumbered and overwhelmed. When the dust settled, the women trembled, unsure of what fate awaited them. Some begged in Turkish, others merely cried. The captain looked at them sternly, but not with hatred. "You're safe now," he said. But the word safe was complicated in Wallachia. He ordered the surviving soldiers to bind the Ottoman guards and begin the long march toward Targovist. The women were brought before Vlad in the courtyard of his fortress. The stone arches loomed above them, and every wall bore the scars of war. Vlad himself stood in full armor, the red glow of torches flickering across his fur-lined cloak. The women knelt terrified. Vlad studied them quietly, his expression unreadable. Neither sympathy nor malice, only calculation. "You were taken from your homes," he said at last, "by the Sultan's men, forced to serve in lands not your own." Some nodded, some kept their eyes down. One young woman dared to speak. "Will you send us back?" Vlad's jaw tightened. "Back? To the men who steal daughters and wives as tribute?" "No." He stepped down from the dais and walked slowly around them, his boots echoing across the courtyard. "You are not my enemies," he said, "but you came with the Ottomans, and the Sultan must learn what becomes of those he sends into my land." His words chilled every soul present. Rather than imprison the women, Vlad gave them an option few rulers of his era would have offered. "You may stay here," he said, "free to live among my people. Work in the villages, serve in my court, or leave when you choose." Then his voice hardened. "But if any of you are spies, if any carry messages, secrets, or pledges for the Sultan, I will know, and the punishment will be the same I give to all traitors." The courtyard fell silent. The women exchanged glances, unsure if this was mercy or a trap. Vlad signaled his soldiers, "Give them food, clothing, and rest. At dawn, I will speak to them again." That night, in the fortress chambers, the women whispered among themselves. One woman, older than the rest, confessed that she had been forced by an Ottoman officer to carry a small scroll. It was sewn into the lining of her dress. The message bore orders for a local spy inside Wallachia. "If I tell him," she asked, trembling, "will he kill me?" None of them knew. Another argued that Vlad was cruel beyond imagination. Better to hide the secret. But the older woman shook her head. "I have seen Ottoman cruelty too. I have nothing left to fear." As the moonlight filtered through the arched window, she made her decision. At dawn, Vlad stood again in the courtyard, spear in hand. The women lined up, shivering in the cold morning air. The older woman stepped forward, falling to her knees. "My lord," she said, "I was forced to carry a message into your land." The soldiers immediately tightened their grip on their weapons. Vlad raised a hand to stop them. "Show me." With trembling fingers, she cut open the seam of her dress and produced the scroll. Vlad took it, unrolled it, and studied the encoded message. His lips twisted in contempt. "The Sultan sends spies even in the clothing of women," he muttered. He looked down at the woman. You have done the brave thing, and for that, you will not be harmed." Her eyes widened with shock and relief. But then Vlad signaled to his soldiers, "Bring the Ottoman guards who plotted this." Moments later, the captured men from the caravan, bound and bruised, were dragged into the courtyard. The women were ordered to stand aside. Vlad spoke loudly, so even the fortress walls seemed to listen. "If the Sultan believes he can use innocent women to smuggle spies into my land, then let him witness what happens to the men who command such wickedness." He nodded to his executioner. But instead of punishing the women, Vlad turned his fury on the Ottoman soldiers who had used them as tools of espionage. The punishment was harsh, symbolic, and meant to send a message the empire would not forget. He forced the guards to kneel. "You have stolen daughters and wives," he said. "You have forced mothers to walk behind your armies as trophies. This ends now." He raised his spear, "and the Sultan will learn it through you." Though the punishment was severe, Vlad directed all cruelty toward the guilty, those who had oppressed and exploited the women, not the women themselves. His enemies expected barbarism against the women. Instead, they witnessed a strange and brutal form of justice. When a message was delivered back to the Ottoman frontier through a survivor intentionally released, it caused shockwaves. Not because the Ottomans cared for the fate of their soldiers, but because Vlad had defied their expectations. They thought he would harm the women. He had protected them. They expected blind cruelty. He showed selective ruthlessness. This unsettled them more than any battlefield defeat. After the ordeal, the women were given homes in Wallachian villages. Some married local men. Others stayed in the fortress to work in the court, helping manage the bustling household. Years later, travelers reported that some of these women spoke of Vlad not as a monster, but as a stern protector. Harsh, terrifying, but not unjust. One of the younger women would later write, "We were taken as spoils of war, but Vlad returned our dignity. He punished the men who used us, not us. For that, some called him cruel. To us, he was the first man who gave us a choice." Ottoman chroniclers recorded the event as an atrocity because Vlad had punished their soldiers. European travelers exaggerated it into legend. Some even later claimed he tortured women, though the original reports showed the opposite. He protected those who were used as pawns of empire. History remembered Vlad for his brutality, but the story of the Ottoman women he spared and the soldiers he punished revealed something more complicated. A prince who could be merciful and merciless at the same time. A ruler whose shock tactics terrified his enemies not only because he was cruel, but because he was unpredictable. And unpredictability is the one thing an empire fears most.